One of the biggest reasons people don't see results with their physique is because they don't have a clear roadmap. So, in this video, I'm going to be talking about what exactly you need to be doing to get into the best shape of your life and actually put on muscle, lose body fat, and stop wasting time because summer's here. And if you're wasting time, then you're just going to look back with regret. So, what I want to talk about in this video are the different pages that you need to close before you complete the book of understanding how to achieve your ideal physique. This is the same blueprint and the same exact roadmap that all of my clients have gone through. Clients like Caleb, who lost 25 pounds within his first 60 days on the program. Clients like Lee, who was able to drop 20 pounds in his first 3 months on the program. Clients like Andrew, John, Will, the other Will, the list goes on and on. But before we do this, I just want to talk about like who I am, why I got into this space in the first place, and why we're here, and then we'll dive right into the video. So make sure you stay all the way to the end because if you miss a step or if you try to skip through, it's not going to make sense. And I want you to get value from this video, so stay into the end. And we can kind of jump right into it. So first and foremost, I used to be an in-person personal trainer. I also started coaching with nutrition, so I got all my certifications. And when going through that period of time, I realized that the biggest thing holding people back was actually right on this whiteboard. I just hadn't written it down yet. But with the in-person training, it was just one slice of the pie. We all know that 90% of your results come from nutrition, and accountability and training is just a piece of the pie. So unless you just want a slice, let's be honest, you probably want the whole pizza. You're going to have to pay attention and listen up to this. Now, as each and every person that I've worked with has started in my program, they go through the first point right here, which is point A. That's where they're currently at. And we want to get them to point B, which is their ideal physique, helping them achieve the results thereafter. So the biggest thing that I think holds people back being all the people that have been in my program and why they were stuck in the first place before joining the program, as well as all the people that I speak with that don't join the program or, because it's not a good fit for everybody, just to be transparent. But if it is, something that you are interested in, you can just click the link below and see if it might work for you. I don't know if it would, but I'm confident in my offer and my coaching. So back to the point, we have this starting point A, right? And we have and then we have end point B. The reason people try to see results and they get stuck and frustrated is because, as I open this marker, they try to go from point A all the way to point B, and they try to just fast track it, and they skip all of these steps right here. All of these steps they skip, and they might do like one of them, but then they're wondering why they haven't seen the best results. And the reason for that is you need each and every step, right? It's like learning how to ride a bike. You can't just, be crawling on the floor, not know how to walk, and then all of a sudden jump on a bike. Because probably you're not going to know how to coordinate, right? And also when you fall, you're just going to hit the floor. It's the same thing with like basketball, bro. If you're trying to shoot a 3-pointer from 40 feet behind the arc, it's probably best that you learn how to do a layup and a mid-range shot and a 3-point from the 3-point line first. It's just simple math, bro. Simple steps. So how does this all relate to the program and also what you're probably missing if you're watching this video? Well, the biggest thing that holds people back is not going step to step in order to get to the destination they want to get to. They try to just, like I said, skip steps. So the first thing that people need when they get into the program, or if you're doing this on your own, is you're going to need support. So what does that look like? Okay, well, you're going to need guidance from somebody who's done what you're looking to achieve, or support of somebody who is working towards that and getting somewhat of results. You need those people in your circle to tell you that what you're doing is working, because the reason a lot of people get stuck is they don't know if what they're doing is the right thing, and they're taking steps forward sometimes. Other times they're taking steps backwards, which of course just makes it longer, and now you have to undo that action, right? But a lot of people take backward steps because they don't have feedback. See, there's a very very um, you know there's a very very relatable saying that I resonate with, and it says the only way for you to actually truly learn something is not from repetition and reiteration. What it comes from is feedback loops. Because if you don't have the proper feedback, you don't know if you're doing things right or wrong. Michael Jordan has a saying. If you don't know who Michael Jordan is, bro, just stop watching the video. You've been under a rock for God knows how long. But um, Michael Jordan has this saying that says, if you learn how to shoot, but you're shooting from your hip, or you're not shooting properly, shooting a basketball, bro, no violence on this channel. If you're learning how to do it improperly, then you're just getting better at being worse. And it's the exact same thing with fitness. Because if you're trying to take steps that aren't even aligned with your goals and don't even make sense for your unique situation, your physique, and your genetics, and just how your body responds, because we all respond differently. Some people respond better with, heavy, low reps. Other people respond better with medium weight, high repetitions. So if you're doing the wrong thing, you might not know, and you just continue doing it, and you're not getting feedback. So best case scenario, you're getting better at being worse, which is frustrating, and you're ultimately getting closer back to this point A, and you're taking backward steps, right? So without the feedback loops and you getting the support that you need, knowing that, okay, what you're doing is actually the right thing, just continue and start to make these adjustments. For example, right? I want to give actual tactical advice in this video, so that's why you should stay to the end so you can hear everything. A lot of the clients that I work with, when they join the program, I tell them, okay, these are the first 3 steps we need to focus on. First, we need to nail your protein target. It's going to be different than everybody else's in the program, unless you're exactly, the same way and you guys are identical twins. Even then, you guys have different genetics. Most of the time, you're going to need something different, right? If I tell them, for example, first 3 steps that I want you to implement are consistently track your protein, consistently take 10,000 steps a day, consistently monitor, say your nutrition, right? Amidst all the other steps. That's a starting point, but that's not what you need to do for the rest of your life. So I think a lot of people get this confused and they think that, oh, I figured out how to track my protein. I know how much my body needs. I know how many steps to take, and I also know, how many calories. I'm good. But the thing is, bro, our bodies are meant to plateau. So you, after starting to make adaptation and see results from that, you're going to need to adjust those things: the step count, the protein target, the caloric goal, and you're going to have to monitor it. So people don't know if what they're doing is the right thing. And even when they know, best case scenario, they get stuck ultimately and they hit this plateau, right? So that's why we first need to check off the box, or the circle in this situation with my ugly check mark. You need to check off support, because you need to have support and guidance. You need to know exactly what to be doing. The next thing that people get caught up on and stuck at is accountability right here. Because without the proper accountability systems in place, you don't know if you can continue doing this for the rest of your life. There's a physician I follow, his name is Dr. Peter Attia. I used to work with bone densitometry, which for simple terms is, pretty much just x-rays of your skeleton and picking up lean muscle mass around the bones. So your skeletal muscle mass is the muscle that surrounds your bones. So for example, the muscle around your forearms, your arms, your shoulders, your legs, etc. That is your skeletal muscle mass, right? Basically, just the muscle that goes, over your bones, right? And so when I was studying the bone densitometry, the X-ray software, all this sort of stuff, using DEXA scans, dual energy X-ray absorptiometry, I came across a lot of Peter Attia's content, and I started watching him, and he talked about something with nutrition that stuck with me that I usually, speak on with some of my clients, which is whatever habits you're implementing, you need to be able to continue those for the rest of your life. And if you can't, then it's probably going to be unsustainable. So start a habit that you can do for the rest of your life. And that doesn't mean that you always keep those basic level like habits. Of course, as you adapt and you become more disciplined, then you can start to give yourself more challenging steps. So for example, right, when it comes to like accountability, right? Myself personally, I used to not do much cardio. I would train all the time. I would be doing basketball and running and stuff, but I wouldn't be doing the low intensity cardio that I needed to start to get my abs to actually pop and lose body fat, get my quads and all the muscles in my legs and everywhere else truly to be visible. So I was going from doing just cardio that was fun, like playing basketball, which is still good, right? But I wasn't tracking or monitoring it. I was kind of just playing for fun. I was kind of just going around. I would just jump, do some jump shots, like get a few dunks in. You know what I'm saying? Like nothing too crazy. But then I started to transition into, okay, I need to get leaner, and my goal is to get a lot more defined after my bulk. So I went into a bulk, for those of you guys that don't know, and it's like, hey, now I'm cutting down again. I want to get lean for the summertime. And so I started off with just a small habit of just going on a walk. And it wasn't every day. It was like, I'm just going to start walking. And it was 2 to 3 times a week. and I would just walk, and I didn't have a time limit on it. I would just say, as long as I walk, I check the goal off, and it makes it very easy from the beginning. So sometimes I would walk 10 minutes, 12 minutes. Other times I would walk an hour. Other times I would walk 2 hours. I would really just like put my headphones on, listen to a podcast, listen to a YouTube video, maybe play some music, or I would listen to like a client coaching call, just play myself back, kind of what I told that client to do, just to make sure it stays top of mind and I can follow up with them. Also to make tweaks to how I coach and how I get people results in the program. Again, if you want to join or you have questions about how it works, just click the link below. But so basically, like as I transitioned from taking those steps, just going on a walk every once in a while, it would just be down the street and back. Then it started to lean into like, okay, now I'm doing a walk every single day. And then I got consistent with that. And then now it just become this thing where now I'm walking probably an hour to an hour and a half every single day. And I easily hit my 10,000 steps with just one walk. And I'm multitasking. I'm listening to a podcast or a YouTube video at like 2x speed. I don't know about y'all, but I just consume information faster. My brain like gets sidetracked when I'm listening to it at regular speed, unless I'm also taking notes. So just like that high stimulation, like the fast information is what like I can stay locked in on. So I'm on a walk. I'm listening to a podcast at 2x speed. Like I'm literally running through like 2 or 3 podcast episodes about growing the business, fitness, faith, all the important things, the values I have in my life. And I'm getting all my steps for the day and literally just one walk. And then if I go above and beyond it, I go for a second walk throughout the day, maybe like after work or between client meetings. Then, I'm just above and closer to 20,000, 30,000 some days. But that's where a lot of people get it wrong because they think that, okay, I need to start at 30,000 steps every single day and do it 7 days a week, 365 a year. But the thing is, it's like, it's not going to be sustainable. And you're probably going to do it and then get burnt out and be like, F this, right? And then after a couple of weeks, you don't do it at all for like 6 months. So you're better off starting small and just stair stacking your way up, right? So you have this staircase. Here's like goal 1, and then goal 2, goal 3, goal 4. And now it's like, this is point B, for example. This is point A. You've gotten all the way up here. But people just try to go in one sitting, and you have to stair stack your way, right? It's the exact same thing with scaling a business. For those of you guys that watch that are entrepreneurs or are business owners, you probably know that when it comes to getting a team, getting clients, hiring employees, scaling even further, you have to stair stack your way up. You can't just do everything. It's like, if you ever worked a job before, and if you're watching this video, you haven't, there's something wrong, bro. You probably need to get to work. If you ever worked anywhere before, even if it's for yourself, you probably know that if you're on your first day, your boss just said, hey, this is everything you need to do, start now. So you'd probably be like, whoa, that's crazy. That's way too much. But if they, with a more strategic approach, on day 1 told you, hey, this is what I need you to focus on. Day 2, now you're getting better at this. Now start to look at the emails. Day 3, start to file these paperworks and send them via the email to XYZ, right? And then step 5, now you're able to do that while also managing, maybe your cubicle, because now you can kind of multitask a little bit better. Even though we truly can't multitask, you can get a little bit more efficient at doing so. And then from there, okay, now you're able to do all these things, and customers are walking in. So it's like, okay, now you're handling all these responsibilities simultaneously, but it's because you've been trained to do one, master it, and then go to the next, and then master it. And now it's like, okay, now you can stack these on. Exactly the same thing with basketball, bro. If I just pass you a basketball and I say, hey, dribble behind the back and then do like a 360 spin into like a fadeaway 3-point jump shot with the defender in your face, you're not going to do it, bro. It's going to look garbage. But if I tell you, hey, focus on in front of your hips, like dribbling back and forth. And then next step is, okay, now we're going between the legs. Now we're going behind the back. You've mastered that. And on a separate day, you're focusing also on like jump shots, shooting the 3-pointer, shooting the fadeaways. Now you can just mesh them together. They're going to go very well. Hope you kind of get what I'm going at there. So people don't have the accountability they need, and because of that, they try to skip steps. So you need accountability, because if you have accountability from somebody that's going to make sure you're doing the right things and staying consistent and you're progressing with each and every habit, that's what's going to help you actually see results. Because again, remember, like I mentioned, you need feedback loops. You don't just need more information or more implementation. You need feedback loops. You need to be made sure and well aware that what you're doing is working, and it's confirmed by somebody who has the thing or is doing the thing you want efficiently. And then you can add more to the plate, right? But you also don't know how much you can manage at once. So it's good if you have somebody looking over your shoulder. So that's why in the Achieve Your Ideal Physique coaching program, we have accountability systems in place, not just for myself, but from the entire team, all the other guys, and the people on my team, to make sure that you stay dialed in. And then you ultimately get from step 1 to step 2, and from step 2 to 3, etc., until you're at the point right here, point B, right? So we've checked accountability now off the box. The next thing that holds people a lot of people back really is progression. So when people think of progression, they probably hear the word, and you've probably heard this yourself, progressive overload, which just means doing more in the gym and more with training. So whether you're working at home, you're doing cardio, whatever you want to progress, and it's not just with the workouts, it's with everything. Just like I talked about with the step count, you want to slowly and gradually progress that. With your nutrition, you want to slowly and gradually progress your protein until you can consistently eat X grams of protein. Same thing with your calories. And in the same sense, if you're cutting back, if you're going into a deficit because you need a deficit to burn body fat, you want to take consistent steps down. You can't just jump. I mean, you could, but bro, I don't recommend it. If you're going from eating 3,000 to 4,000 calories every single day, and now you're going on this drastic cut, and you're dropping it to 1,500. If you just go from 4,000 to 1,500, you're going to be super hungry. You're going to go crazy. But if you gradually cut back 300 calories every 4 or 5 days, 500 calories a week. Okay, now I'm in a good routine. I'm adapting to it. It kind of sucks. I'm kind of hungry a lot, but I'm getting leaner, and I'm figuring out ways of how to regulate my hunger levels. And I'm doing things like drinking more water. I'm moving more. I'm keeping myself at a pace where I'm able to gradually get there. It's the exact same thing with nutrition. When you're going into a bulk, you can't just go from 1,900 calories to 3,100, bro. You're going to put on a bunch of body fat. You need to go from 1,900 to 2,150, which is 250 calories. You're jumping up, and you're keeping everything the same. You're just adding a little bit more protein. Now your body's getting really, really receptive at actually pulling those nutrients and pushing them basically into your muscle cells, right? Which is just nutrition, part. I can't say this word. Whatever, bro. I can't say that word. But basically, the term for it is pushing nutrients into your bloodstream. Yes, what you need to build muscle, right? So if you go from 1,900 to 2,700 calories overnight, you're going to feel super full. You're going to use a bunch of that as fuel for like storing body fat and not as building muscle. But if you're slowly adapting and increasing the food while simultaneously increasing the progression in the gym, now your body knows like we actually need more food. We actually need an extra 200 calories. We can't fully recover from what we're doing. And if you do it that way, that's how you're able to lean bulk. That's how you're able to stay at 68% body fat and go from 140 to 200, putting on 60 pounds of muscle without putting on a bunch of fat. Because that's what I've done my entire life. I've never once done a dirty bulk. And there were times where I probably didn't eat the best, but I still never went out of control because going too out of control, I would have just put in a bunch of body fat. So I gained 60 pounds of lean muscle, but it was because I stair stacked my way up. So, okay, I'm going to just be in a slight surplus, but I'm going to keep a good eye on the food quality and the timing of my nutrition and a variety of other factors. And that's how, okay, now I'm going from 1,900 calories to 4,000 or 5,000 calories. But a lot of people get this twisted. And there was a guy I was talking with even last week that was saying like some days he's eating 5,000 calories, other days he's eating 1,000. His appetite's all over the place. He doesn't feel hungry the day after. His appetite's suppressed. That's the biggest problem because you're basically like throwing way too much of your body. It can't, manage all of it. So you need to have progression in all areas. Training, that can mean adding more reps, adding more sets, more weight, pretty much just more volume overall, lowering the rest time, keeping the intensity of your heart rate, the heart pace, keeping that higher and elevated. Same thing with cardio, right? You're at the treadmill, on the gym, at the gym on the treadmill doing 20 miles, or maybe like I should say 20 minutes on the treadmill. Next week you do 25 every day. Now it's easy to keep up with. Same thing with anything. I've been doing this morning routine recently where I do basically these three things where like I wake up first thing in the morning, I do is I drink caffeine, and I go on a 20-minute brisk walk in addition to my steps later in the day, and I take a cold shower. The first day it sucked because I took 5 minutes of a freezing cold shower, and I haven't done that in a little bit of time, so I wasn't adapted to it. Day two was a lot easier. And I was like, this isn't even that bad. I have a timer on my phone, and as soon as the timer goes off, it's time to get out, and it's like, wow, like the 5 minutes now is flying by. And day three today, it's a lot easier. I could have stayed in there. I actually did stay in there like an extra 2 minutes longer. I was in there for like 7 minutes. Right? So anything you do, you want to make sure you're progressing. And when it comes to progressing, this leads to my next point, because we've checked this box off now. We need to look at tracking. Because if we're not tracking, bro, we're just slacking. And so you don't even know if you're able to progress or if you are progressing unless you're tracking. I talk to so many guys all the time, and they say, yeah, bro, I'm eating 5,000 calories a day. Okay. Then just think about it like this. Bro, if you're eating 5,000 calories a day, right? Yeah, 5,000 calories. If you've ever seen 5K cal, it's exactly the same. This means 5,000 calories, right? Basically, a kilocalorie is 1,000 calories, right? So 5 kilocalories is the equivalent of 5,000 calories. If you've ever seen that somewhere, that's exactly why. Now, if you're eating 5,000 calories every single day, you should be gaining rapid weight, because we have to bear in mind that 1 pound of body fat weighs roughly about 3,500 calories, right? Now, 1 pound of muscle, it's going to be a little bit more, because typically speaking, muscle is going to weigh more than fat. And so it's going to take a little bit more, of those calories to actually put on that additional pound. But assuming you're doing things correctly, you should be able to roughly gain 1 pound of weight every time that you eat 3,500 calories or more, right? So if you're eating 5,000 calories a day, that means you should be on average, if I do some quick math in my head, you should be putting on like 1.2 pounds of muscle every single day. If you're in that much of a surplus, assuming, right? So say your basal metabolic rate, what your body burns at rest, is 1,500, and you're eating 6,500 to counter what you're burning. Then yes, you should be putting the weight on. A lot of people, one, they don't even realize that, so they first understand that you need to be 5,000 calories over your maintenance level, not just 5,000 total, because you might have a super fast metabolism, you might exercise all the time, you might have, the size and the function of your organs is going to determine how many calories you burn. So there's so many factors: your heart rate, your resting heart rate, etc. So you could be burning 4,500 calories at rest and eating 5,000 calories, and you're in a deficit. I mean, you're in a surplus by 500 calories, but you're not seeing much growth, because for you to get to that 3,500 calorie mark, it's going to take 1 week for you to put on 1 pound, right? But if what you can do is realize that, okay, this is my base rate, and I'm eating 5,000 calories over that, then yeah, you're going to put on tons of weight. This is why people think like, oh, like I'm eating 5,000 calories a day, but I'm not seeing results. It's like you probably are burning 4,000. So you're only in a deficit, a surplus of 1,000 calories. And then if you're also training very hard, your body needs a lot of that to just repair and recover your system. So whatever's left over can use to build new tissue, of course. So keep that in mind. But the thing is, if you're actually eating that much food, you have to be tracking it. Because if you're not tracking it, you don't know if you're right or wrong. And so many people, they think that they are eating 5,000 calories, but they're just eyeballing and estimating things. And you can truly get to a period of time in your life where you are eyeballing things and seeing good results, but you're not going to be seeing satisfactory results unless you're tracking. It's like, we don't track. I made an Instagram post about this. If you guys don't have my Instagram, check me out. It's jstroudfit, same as here. If you came from YouTube and you want to know about the AYP program, just message me the word RADY, RADY, and I'll talk about how it works, and just let me know you came from YouTube. But like, if you're not tracking, then you don't have any information. How are you going to make data-driven decisions if you don't have any data to work with? You're just guessing, and nothing worse than guessing. The only thing worse than guessing is you're doing the wrong thing intentionally, which obviously none of us would do if we were smart about it, right? So how do we actually track the food? Like, we have to look at, okay, like, what are we eating on a weekly basis, and then what's the average from those 7 days? And then if you want to be more precise and you want to see better and faster results, what are we eating every single day? What are we eating before the workout, after the workout, in the middle of the workout? Some people do that, some people don't. So your pre-workout before, your peri-workout, which is in between, and then your post-workout. What are you eating in those 3 meals, if anything? A lot of people don't eat before or during, or before and after. And your body needs calories, especially when it's breaking down muscle fibers and depleting itself of energy, of electrolytes, etc. So you need to be tracking this stuff, because you don't know, where the numbers lie if you don't have any idea. And that's the biggest thing that people get stuck on, is they're like, yeah, I'm just eating, I'm going to eyeball it. And I was talking with the guy the other day, he's like, I'm eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, I'm eating mac and cheese, I'm eating freaking a whole box of protein pasta. I'm like, bro, okay, cool. Like, are you seeing results? He's like, no, I'm kind of stuck. Well, I'm like, how many calories are you eating? He's like, about 5,000. Which, when he says about, it's like, okay, you're probably not tracking any of that stuff. And even if you are, or even if you're like, oh, X number of calories, and I'm like keeping it in my head, you're probably going to be way off. It's pretty simple. Like, when was the last time you tried to just like balance? If you're a business owner, when was the last time you tried to just balance your P&L off the top of your head, or you went to get your taxes done, and you just tried to deduct all the taxes you should have that should have come out or that you owe off the top of your head? Like, it's like, bro, come on now. We're not Albert Einstein here, and if we are, then you should be probably starting your own YouTube channel and teaching people how to become successful. So we need to be tracking, because if we're not tracking, bro, we're just slacking. Another thing too is, like, when I was talking with that dude, it's like, well, even if you are tracking and you're not putting on weight, like, something's going off. Either A, your body's not responding well with that food, so it's not actually absorbing the nutrients. And here's the word earlier that I couldn't think of. It's partial. Um, I still can't think of it. Anyways, you basically, when your body sends like the nutrients to the bloodstream, like, it needs to be absorbable, right? And a lot of people, they eat foods that don't respond well with them, so they might have a dairy intolerance. Typically, like 1 in 3 people, at least in the U.S., have a dairy intolerance. So if you're eating Greek yogurt, milk product, whey protein powder, and that's accounting for, say, 70 out of your 200 grams of protein every day, but your body doesn't tolerate it well, it's either A, not going to absorb any of it, or B, going to absorb very little, which just means that it's not actually going into your GI, your gastrointestinal tract, which is what your body needs to be able to actually like absorb the food, right? And send it to the other areas. That's the first thing. The second thing is, you might be eating something like gluten, right? And you also, same thing, don't respond with gluten, so therefore your body's not going to break it down. Not to get too in the weeds here for you guys watching, but what happens basically with that is, like, your body basically goes in through your mouth, you don't even break it down or digest it all, and then it just goes out the other end, right? If it's TMI, bro, just get out of here. This is how it actually works with science. So either A, you're eating something that's not responding well to your body, so therefore you're not actually breaking it down and absorbing it, amidst all the other benefits of inflammation and things that people run into. But the second thing is, if you're eating foods and they're processed, things like protein bars, things like processed chicken nuggets, hot dogs, like all these sorts of things that we know like aren't organic, and they have preservatives and things. A lot of times there's going to be other ingredients in there, and not just that. Like, these other ingredients are great for you, but also the nutrition breakdown is not going to be what you think it is. So it might say 50 grams of protein per serving, but because it's an ingredient that's been processed and it's been either frozen or it's been modified a bit, it's not going to be all absorbed into your bloodstream, right? Which is why it's just best if you go with whole foods. But obviously, we want people to still enjoy life, so you need to figure out all these factors so that if one of them is off a little bit, the other ones are still okay, right? And you're still on track. But people just don't track, and they think that, like, they aren't seeing results because they're doing something wrong, which is true, but it's because you're not tracking. If you were just tracking everything you're eating, you would see results. There was a study done where people just started to track food. They didn't consume any specific diet. They didn't cut back on anything. They didn't have any rules or regulations, except the only one being they just had to track their input of what calories from beverage and food came in. And those people on average lost 5 to 10 pounds in their first 30 days. And this was done with like thousands of people. So if you're not tracking, you're truly slacking. So that's why in the AYP program, we have systems built in to make sure you know exactly what to be eating, what types of foods, a meal plan custom to your goals and your lifestyle and preferences, as well as how many grams of protein, carbs, fats, fiber, which is what most people don't talk about, which is actually going to help your body absorb and digest and process more of this stuff. Especially if you have a fast metabolism, you need more fiber to slow your fast metabolism down so you can actually absorb the nutrition or the nutrients, in before just like expediting it, right? And basically, if you're not tracking, you're just going to be in a tough circumstance. Now, once we've started to track, we can make data-driven decisions to make sure that we see results we're happy with. Once we do that, the next period is going to be taking a quick glance back at progression and realizing that we need to progress in every area of our lives, right? When I say every area of our lives, of course, I'm talking about your goals, your finances, all this stuff, but specifically here, every area of your fitness and your nutrition goals. So nutrition, tracking, steps, water intake, electrolyte, timing of your foods, all these sorts of things you need to be tracking. And once you're tracking them and you're progressing with them, right? So you're making modifications when necessary to prevent your body from hitting a plateau, whether it be with fat loss or building muscle, That's when you go into this transition period right here, where you transition into the next phase of your program. So building out the exact exercises you need. Now your body is used to X amount, you need more, right? You need more training, more weight, more reps, lower rest time, more volume, more sets, lower rest time. I already said that, etc. And then, same thing with the overall cycle of your program. You need to be changing the exercises to make sure that you're addressing weak points and the muscle groups that you want to bring up. You're actually focusing on when you have the most available energy. So transition into, okay, like what's the best next step? Back to the stair step here. What's the next best step we need to get to the next point with your physique? Now, if you have value from this video, let me know in the comments. Again, we want to make sure we have support, accountability, progression, tracking, and a transition period. And there are so many other, different points within each one of these, but those are the overarching main things that you need when going from point A to point B. If you want help with this and you want to implement it, just click the link below, because we have two options pretty much at this point. One, you can take this information from this video and try to implement it into your lifestyle, your training, your nutrition. But that's just where I've talked with a lot of people. Like, I've talked to literally hundreds of guys on calls, and some of them in person, and even my old in-person clients, they would just say like, yeah, it's hard for me to hold myself accountable. It's hard for me to know how much to eat. It's hard for me to know what foods to be eating. Oops, I'm still good. And don't mind that. It's just my Zoom. I have 5 minutes before my next meeting, so Zoom is telling me it's time to go. But yeah, so that's basically where people go wrong. Either A, they don't know what to do, they don't know what food to eat, how many calories to eat, how many macros, how to adjust all these factors, training exercises, how to do them properly, all this sort of stuff. And most importantly, guidance and accountability along the way to make sure that you do have feedback loops. So at the end of the day, you have these two options. Try to figure it out on your own, implement everything. Let's be honest, everything is here on Google, YouTube, on my YouTube page, on my Instagram page. Again, both of them are jstroudfit if you want to check them out. But people try to take care of all this stuff and they usually get caught. So instead of getting caught in a cycle like that, you could just literally join my program and have it all taken care of for you and have your process expedited so you can get quicker from point A to point B. Now, you can't go this way. You still have to go this way. But now you're going to have step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 until you're at your end goal. And then from there, we just repeat the cycle. We go back to what's your new point A. Okay, so you've gone from 175 to 200 with muscle. Now, what's your next goal? You want to go from 200 to 225. So you put on 25 pounds of muscle. We want to put another 25 on. We have to go back through these phases. And now we have to be more precise, and we're just layering and brick stacking to each and every step. If you're somebody that's like, everything that you've talked about makes a lot of sense, but I still don't have the exact answers I need. I still have questions. I don't know exactly how to be doing all this stuff on my own. And you want those feedback loops to make real results as opposed to just guessing, then you can just click the link below. If you do want to take this on your own, then implement this in addition to my other YouTube content, and you can definitely piece things together. But just truth be told, like my own clients say, like the main reason I'm in the program is because I don't know how to do all this stuff on my own, and I'm not interested in all this stuff. And maybe you are, which is great, but it's still going to take you a lot of time. There's a lot of people I work with, they're business owners, they work in real estate, they work in desk jobs, just 9 to 5s, and teaching, for example, and they have busy schedules with their life, their work. They just need the bare minimum, the few habits that we focus on to get them results. And then the nice thing is, once we've gotten the results, I'm able to teach them. Like, I teach them along the way, of course, but I'm able to teach them now and be like, hey, the reason that you are able to have your abs show and you build this muscle is because of X, Y, and Z. And now you actually know that, like, when you're seeing progress, it's because you're doing this and you're getting that feedback. Versus if you do a bunch of things, like you're walking all the time, you're tracking your food, you're cutting out a certain type of, like, maybe starch, or you're adding in more protein, and you're taking supplements and you're progressing, you're doing everything correctly, you don't know which factor it is that's actually improving. It could be all of them combined, truly. But a lot of times, like for myself, for example, I was just like doing everything to a T. But when I started to see real progress, is because my technique was improving. I was slowing down the eccentric and the concentric, the lowering and the upward portion of my exercises. And I think that's the biggest thing. But had I not been tracking that consistently, keeping the weight the same, the reps, the sets, but just adjusting that, I probably wouldn't know what the heck was, changing it and like how to keep it. Because let's be honest, we're going to go through periods of time where we stop, we slow down, it gets difficult to stick with. But if we pretty much just have the roadmap and we know, like, okay, this is exactly what we're doing, just keep hammering through, we're going to see better results. So that's why people join the AYP program. If you want to implement on your own, by all means. But if you do feel like, hey, what you're saying makes a lot of sense. I just feel like I need more support, guidance, progression tracking, and overall just an outlook on like how my transition from step to step should be. Then just click the link below, and on this call, we'll basically just get a sense of where your current point A is, where your current point B is. So I'll talk to you about like ask you some questions about like what your actual goals are and where you're at currently, and then maybe like how long you've actually been working towards that, and if you've been seeing progress or if you haven't. And if you haven't, or if you've been feeling a little bit like plateaued, staggering a bit, how we can speed that up to get you better results. And then we'll basically walk through each and every one of these steps in addition to the six individual pillars within the AYP program that my clients are using inside to make sure that they get the results they want. And then like worst case scenario, if I feel like, hey, like I don't think we're a fit to work together, because there's a lot of guys that truly just aren't a good fit to work with me, and I don't want to be in my program that's not a good fit, I'll just point you in your best direction. I'll give you some general guidance, and I'll say like, hey, this is what I would do for you, but I'll at least give you a clear roadmap on how to get there on your own. On the flip side, if you do feel like, hey, like what you do inside the AYP program makes sense, and I want to hear more, and I want to get started and actually get into shape versus just guessing and blindlessly walking, right? The blind cannot follow the blind. If you want that step by step, and I do genuinely feel that you are a good fit, and I'm like, hey, I do think what we do here would help you, and I think that you would be a great fit to the community, then we can talk about potential next steps. But again, it's a free call, so worst case scenario, just book in below if you have some questions. If you have a lot of questions, if you want to just get started, just book below. I'm going to be able to break down how to get you into the best shape of your life, because we just have to be real with ourselves at the end of the day, bro. Like, we're getting older, our metabolism is going to start to slow down, our testosterone is going to eventually start to decline. So unless we get a grasp on these things now and we figure out how to naturally optimize these numbers, these metrics, get our hormones in check, get our body producing more calories at rest, burning more fat, building more muscle, unless we figure out how to do this soon, it's going to be harder to do so later, because you have to realize that given that like right now you have a certain level of testosterone, right? If you learn how to optimize it naturally, then you're optimizing your testosterone when you already have pretty good testosterone levels, right? And that's going to make fat loss easier, building muscle easier. And then the habits, of course, you're doing them for longer, they're going to stick far more easier and be sustainable. However, if you put this off 6, 12 months, 18 months, you have to realize that yes, eventually you can get the help if you really want to, but you're going to be at a point now where you have lower testosterone levels. Your metabolism probably will slow down. You'll probably put on more fat. You'll probably like not put on more muscle, and you'll probably be more frustrated. So if you want to wait a year and a half, you can, but it's going to be harder to get to the position you're at today. So if you just start today or sooner rather than later, you're going to get far greater results compared to putting it off, right? Because like the more we delegate things, the harder it's going to be to stick with them, right? And the word decision, what it truly just means is just cut out distractions and cut out other options. So if you are distracted with life, work, family, etc., it's going to be hard to put the time and effort into your fitness. But if you just start now, it's going to be easier, because you're going to develop into a habit, and now you can start to balance these things. So again, if you want to get into shape, you want to build like some substantial muscle, I'm talking like 20 to 30 pounds within like 6 months, and you want to lose body fat, get into the best shape of your life, get your abs to show, have that confidence, the energy you want, then just click the link below, booking a call with me and my team. It will be me personally on there, and I'll just walk you through how everything works. I'll get a sense of figuring out where you're at and see if I can help. And like worst case scenario, like I said, pull you off in your best direction. But I usually don't have to. Usually, people that do book in, they are seriously committed, since they're taking time out of their day to watch YouTube videos like this and consume my other content, and they're like, hey, like makes all sense. Looks like a good fit, good service. Like, let's just get started. And you could be one of those people, but you won't know until you book in. So just like book in below if you want to. If not, like totally no worries. I have a ton of people that I already work with, and I am limited on spots, so I usually only take in a couple of clients every 3 or 4 months, because I can only manage like 40 clients at a time. If I have more than that, it's just harder for me to give all my attention to each and every one of them. So if you feel like you want to be one of those people, worst case, if I don't have any spots, I can at least put you on my wait list and give you some guidance on how to start on your own. Or best case, we might be able to get you into the program and making some results. So I'll see you on the other side. Make sure to check me out on Instagram at jstroudfit, and yeah, click the link below if you want some help, and I'll see you real